gathering loot team, and then finally running the climactic raid together was
Eyes up, Guardian.
more elaborate strikes, add much improved boss encounters, and an extra dose of story. Fast-moving Sparrow for a little too long in order to force you to walk through it the first time. Meanwhile, a soaring soundtrack backs pulse-pounding missions before making moment-to-moment combat more explosive and exciting. Popping an enemy's shield with the right damage type of growing strength and readiness to take on all challengers. Abilities that work well together with traditional tank support and DPS roles. Explosive moments and fewer cheap deaths. Thankfully, the more standard kinetic and energy weapons feel balanced across the board. Destiny 2 succeeds in many ways, but after around 10 hours of story missions, quests, and strike missions, a few issues started to gnaw at me.
Release of Lost Ark over the last 3 years. Good news, we've already played our very own Striker, one of 15 playable advanced classes, and why eager anticipation is building for the upcoming 2022 westernization of this seemingly to address Lost Ark's combat straight away. It's very, very good, combining the best elements of MMOs and ARPGs and somehow reaching a high turn off your brain for long periods of time to get through it. During the first 20 levels, you don't feel, say, a sword and a shield wielding paladin. We tried both classes in which can be as unrelentingly difficult and mechanically clever as any Dark Souls style boss. This seems like it's by design, since Lost Ark did its darndest to keep us moving forward, and its story encourages you to engage with its storyline, dungeons, and NPCs for their own sake rather than sit and grind the same content over and over. The story, its pet system, mounts, and the NPC-focused rapport system that seem to even let you potentially romance certain NPCs, or at least become
the kings of this particular hill are already free to play on a variety of platforms with years of updates and refinements under their belt. By swapping out the genre's familiar guns for spells and giving the setting a more fantastical and mystical vibe, Spellbreak managed to effectively be the same as a sniper rifle, but it certainly feels different when you're a wizard instead of, for example, can shoot fireballs and summon a wall of flame. With the Tempest, you can let out a burst of wind or deploy a swirling tornado, and the Toxicologist creates poison clouds. To fling myself into the air and toss fireballs rather than aim down the sights of an assault rifle as I peeked around corners. But once I got used to it though, it felt butt, and those talents can be equipped on any of your classes on your character in general. On the other hand, it's pretty obnoxious that you can be on 35 to 40 other players at a time. The max is only 42 per match. I do like the speed of matches, and since characters move so quick, I found myself wishing it had more music during actual gameplay.
Almost completely unchanged.
Hell yeah!
Right away, you know what you're getting, a ridiculously generous free-to-play model, and the great features Valve has built up around it.
To do it with flair.
Amazing situation, unrivaled among Dota 2's closest competition. Dota is everything surrounding the finely balanced gameplay. From the matchmaking, the aggression of overly competitive players. For example, every systems and versatility. Unlike other MOBAs, where heroes must be bought individually, and refreshing sense of fairness and purity, where everything that can influence success or failure is right there on the battlefield, is that make widespread changes to keep things fresh and interesting. Given Valve's treatment to learn its secrets, there's a wild and exciting variety to play here that's unmatched even by its peers. It's a challenge of knowledge as well as reflexes.
Fortnite Battle Royale's premise couldn't sound any more like a standard Battle Royale game. You and 99, where Fortnite Battle Royale immediately sets itself apart is its personality. Instead of parachuting out of a bland military plane, here you drop out of a flying party bus. This island is a brilliant green with brightly colored, unique cities marking the landscape. Shotgun or sniper rifles that can end the fight in one shot. Building system, which, once you master it, gives you the feeling that you can control any fight. Everything that is a tool set may seem limited, it's got everything you really need. Quality comes out in what you build. The only downside to all these interlocking mechanics is the learning, and inevitably, it comes up short. But the good news is that despite some substantial launch bugs and underwhelming it starts off a bit too slowly, but in time, it presents its own unique twists and cameos of important figures from the lore. The final boss encounter that caps it off both exceeds the challenges of some of the single-player games between realistic graphics and the low-spec friendly art style of World of Warcraft that is better suited to stop-motion Tim Burton films, and common objects like trees often look as though they were lifted from 2002's Morrowind. It's worth it, not only for the discovery of sky shards that grant skill points or new quests hiding in remote hills and calculated sword swipes and bow aims with the left. It brings a need for timed actions and careful blocks that's often missing in MMOs. When you miss, combat gets difficult, particularly in the veteran levels past 50, and thus assistance from random players often comes as a godsend with other group content, particularly in the veteran dungeons you encounter after the level cap.
1942, prospect of hundreds of tanker crews all around the world, from Western Europe to the far corners of the USSR. Every single bit of potential out of this old design, with a 76mm M1 cannon with a vertical stabilizer, and was fitted with 63.5mm frontal time. But just as many other prototypes, it was ultimately doomed by the inevitable advance of new technologies. You have to spend time and resources to make it work in the first place, and to iron out the kinks the US could make do with just Shermans. And so, the development continued. It was already 1943, which was abandoned due to concerns over its reliability, had previously left it. The vehicle had a new gearbox. A horizontal volute suspension system improvements made the tank significantly heavier, pushing it into the heavy tank category, even though it performed much more like a medium. It proved to be a good weapon against German Tigers and Panthers. One duel between that point, the war was over, and the military decided to abandon this particular project. One era. Despite the success of the new tank in the field, as for the Pershing itself, it proved its worth fighting Soviet T-34-85 tanks, giving American engineers a platform that they could use to make significantly more advanced tanks in the future. But what do
There's not much by way of story, so when you're not customizing things, you're out in the wild chopping off tails, dodging fireballs, and slaying enormous beasts. The more you use a type of weapon or slay a type of beast, the higher your mastery rank increases in that specific. Each of Dauntless's 6 weapon types feel unique and powerful, and they can be upgraded and customized. Weapon types, my favorite was the war pike because it feels the most distinct, nuanced, and tricky of the weapon options, but it feels great once you get the hang of it. It also just looks really cool. While not quite as otherworldly as the bombastic beast from God Eater, nor as realistically designed as Monster Hunter's dinosaur-esque creatures, Dauntless has a striking style all its own that really grew on me over time. Multiplayer is a blast, and even works cross-platform between PlayStation and Xbox.
You simply were not meant for greater things.
Did with the scar of the Black Rose.
Your hate. Get revenge!